Hey guys, last year I got something that's been on my wish list for a while now, and that is a home sauna. In the corner of the garden, we dismantled the shed, laid some foundations, and built ourselves a home sauna. We did this because I've spent years hearing about all the benefits that sauna can have, including improved cardiovascular health, reduced risk of dementia, decreased stress, improved mental health, and better sleep. I ran a 10-week experiment to see what would change when I introduced sauna 3 times a week for 25 minutes per session, noting that the health benefits from sauna supposedly occur beyond 1 hour per week. I love to quantify improvement, so I chose to measure my blood pressure, my sleep, which is tracked with an Oura ring, and my HRV and resting heart rate, again with the Oura. So the first 3 weeks of the experiment involved collecting baseline data while trying to keep everything constant. That's harder than it sounds, not least because we don't know all the different behaviors that can impact sleep or recovery. I've previously shown how the power breathe improved my HRV, so the first thing I did was to fix that at 1 set of 30 breaths per week. The only other cardio I was doing was 40 minutes of zone 2 on an exercise bike. For those not familiar with zone 2, it's a relatively low intensity cycle, again once a week. I kept my sleep routine consistent, which meant blue light blocking glasses from 8:30, bed between 10 and 10:15 using a weighted blanket, and waking up around 6:30 a.m. Something interesting I heard on a health podcast was the idea that at least some of the sleep benefits that come from sauna may be from the fact that you're spending a block of time in the evening away from technology and distractions, regardless of the room temperature. So instead of a heated sauna, for the first 3 weeks, I had fake sauna sessions where I'd sit fully clothed in an unheated sauna from 8 to 8:30 p.m. For the remaining 7 weeks, I kept everything else the same, but I switched to a real sauna session 3 times a week at the same time of day as the fake sauna, so 8 p.m. It's good to give your body at least an hour between sauna and bedtime to cool back down again. I needed 1 week to get used to the full heat, then it was 85 Celsius, roughly 185 Fahrenheit, for 25 minutes each time. Now, while I did collect 10 weeks of data, I had to do so over the course of 12 weeks. That's because on the 4th of December, I caught Norovirus, which left me incapacitated until the 10th. Immediately after, I had a minor chest infection, which took several weeks to resolve itself fully. With that in mind, I've had to break up the data into smaller, cleaner data sets, but at the same time, I still want to show you the full picture of what I recorded. This is quite frustrating for me personally because it leaves the results really open to interpretation, and I've tried my best to avoid any bias in my analysis. So let's get into the results, starting with blood pressure, where, to be honest, I wasn't expecting anything to happen. I'm already in the normal range for blood pressure, and I wouldn't want the sauna to start pushing me into low blood pressure. I took 2 sets of blood pressure readings per arm on 3 mornings each week. The real sauna session started on Christmas Eve, December 24th, but I'm not sure whether to expect an instant effect. You'll note that my blood pressure was raised following my illness, so if you compare pre-Norovirus to the final 4 weeks of the experiment, there is a small drop in diastolic blood pressure that's not statistically significant. One paper from the sauna research showed that an 8-week intervention involving post-exercise sauna 3 times a week for 15 minutes reduced average blood pressure from 134/80 to 126/80, while the exercise-only group saw no change. So this is likely a case where people with hypertension may see a larger effect. Moving on to sleep, and I'll start by highlighting a longer-term trend which I'm measuring from 6 months earlier. That's when I heard Matthew Walker speak about the dangers of spending too long in bed and how your brain can get complacent about using all that time for sleep. Prior to that, I was following the advice of another wearable, the Whoop strap, which was constantly telling me I needed to get more sleep and to go to bed earlier and earlier to achieve this. My average time in bed moved from over 9 hours to 8.25 hours, and I believe some of the loss in sleep was really a decrease in these long wakeful spells, parts of which my Oura was mistakenly classifying as light sleep, so I don't think I really lost half an hour a night. So up until the experiment started in mid-November will be the first bucket of data, followed by almost 3 full weeks of baseline, and then a final 4 weeks of heated sauna data. For the baseline data, I spent a little longer in bed, which saw my sleep time go up as well as my REM and light sleep, but none of these were significant. It's possible they would be with more than 3 weeks of data. As you can see, once I started the heated sauna, my sleep rose further, an improvement of 10 minutes per night from the baseline and 19 minutes from the period before that. That increase was split between REM and light sleep, with the percentage increase in REM sleep being more substantial, just over 10%. These differences were significant when compared to the larger dataset for total sleep, REM sleep, and light sleep, and the slight drop in deep sleep was not significant. Again, I likely fell short on the number of days of data, with the difference in REM sleep carrying a p-value of 0.052, just shy of 95% significance. In the research, the focus is mainly on the improvements to deep sleep, which is predominantly in the first half of the night. I would speculate that I may not have seen the effect on deep sleep because I had a fixed bedtime, whereas participants in these studies may have had the freedom to go to bed earlier, in which case they would have tapped into more of their deep sleep. For the non-sleep data, my baseline numbers included respiratory rate, the number of breaths taken per minute while sleeping, resting heart rate, and heart rate variability, HRV, where higher is generally better. My resting heart rate was around 47 beats per minute and HRV in the low 70s. From the baseline testing, I saw a significant rise in HRV to 78 milliseconds and only small movements in the other metrics. These values were similar for the heated sauna condition, with the exception of respiratory rate, which dropped by half a breath. Respiratory rate is very stable over time, so a drop of half a breath per minute is significant. You can see historically it stayed between 14 and 16 most nights, and it's one that goes a bit wild when you're ill. Across 30 days, my HRV averaged 79.4, which again is highly significant when compared to the larger dataset, but not to my baseline values. In conclusion, with a relatively healthy blood pressure to begin with, the sauna wasn't able to have much effect. But I believe if someone is starting with a higher blood pressure, they would see more of a positive impact from sauna use. There were significant improvements to my total sleep and REM sleep, but not my deep sleep, and to respiratory rate and HRV, but not my resting heart rate. I would say the main takeaway from this experiment is the improvements that I saw during the baseline testing, which may or may not have been influenced by sitting in an unheated sauna. The theory of the unheated sauna was that some of the benefits are coming from taking that 25-minute break from technology in a low stimulation environment to help you relax before bed. I can believe this to be a genuine effect. On evenings when I wasn't in the sauna, I would be sat in front of my laptop, either catching up on work or scripting and editing YouTube videos for you lovely people. So not switching off at all, and I would notice the difference when I was laying down to sleep. I would say the biggest difference between this larger data set and my baseline testing isn't the fake sauna sessions. It's an overall consistency to my bedtime routine. If you plot my bedtimes between April and mid-November, they're clustered from 9:15 to 10:30, whereas my baseline was almost all concentrated in a half-hour window, and that was maintained for the rest of the experiment. The same was true of my wake times, previously across a 2-hour window and reduced to around 45 minutes for the baseline and then around 1 hour for the sauna protocol. If you're looking to improve your sleep or HRV, there's a lot to be said for a consistent sleep schedule, so fixing your bedtime and wake times. There may be some effect from the fake sauna as well, so it's worth trying to find 10 or 15 minutes each evening away from technology and letting yourself wind down from the day. I'm also someone who is fully on top of their exercise and nutrition, so if that's not the case for you, I wouldn't rush out to sauna as a solution if you haven't fully explored the other fundamentals of a healthy lifestyle. Thanks for watching.